In the heart of the Appalachian wilderness, some mysteries are best left undisturbed. This is the haunting story of Martin Groves, a man who walked into the woods one day and simply ceased to exist. October 14, 1947. Sheriff Elias Thorne found Martin's rifle. It wasn't dropped or discarded. It stood perfectly upright against an ancient oak tree, as if placed with deliberate care. For 3 days, rain had soaked the forest, yet the rifle stood there, a silent sentinel. The forest itself felt wrong. The trees huddled closer, the light tinted an unnatural green. Thorne approached and touched the barrel. It was impossibly cold, humming with a vibration that resonated deep in his bones, like a distant bell. He called Martin's name, but the forest swallowed his voice. Then he saw them, 5 deep, vertical scratches gouged into the tree above the rifle, weeping a strange, amber sap. There were no footprints, no signs of a struggle. It was as if Martin Groves, a seasoned hunter who knew these woods better than himself, had evaporated into the air, leaving only his rifle and a terrifying silence. The story begins 3 days earlier, on October 11th. Martin woke before dawn with the taste of rust in his mouth and a whisper echoing from his dreams, speaking in a language older than the hills. "Come and see." An experienced hunter, Martin wasn't easily spooked. He prepared his gear, his reliable Remington Model 30, and told his empty cabin he'd be back by supper. As he rode his mule, Bill, toward the mountains, the familiar trails felt alien. Something was watching, not an animal, but the forest itself. Reaching a familiar clearing, he heard the whisper again, pulling him toward a treacherous valley known as Devil's Kitchen, a place most hunters avoided. He knew he should turn back, that a cold dread was settling in his gut, but a hunter's curiosity and a strange sense of promise in the whisper pushed him forward. He propped his rifle against a tree and began to descend into the valley. He didn't know he was taking his final steps in our world. When Martin didn't return, Sheriff Thorne organized a search party of 50 rugged men who knew the woods. But Thorne had a secret fear. He had returned to the rifle and found it had changed. It seemed larger. The scratches on the oak had multiplied. An old-timer warned him, "The green is awake. Once it knows your name, it keeps calling until you answer." As the search party entered Devil's Kitchen, their compasses spun uselessly. The forest floor, which should have been thick with autumn leaves, was bare, packed down earth. Then, the impossible happened. The trees began to move. Not swaying, but physically shifting their roots, repositioning themselves, forming an archway deeper into the valley. They were led to the clearing, but it was transformed. The oak was now monstrous in size, and the rifle Thorne had locked away in his office was back, leaning against the tree. At its base, a perfect circle of absolute blackness had opened in the ground, a hole that seemed to drink the light. From this hole, something began to rise. A 7-foot-tall creature made of birch bark and roots, with 5 vertical slits for a face, weeping glowing sap. It raised an arm, and for a moment, reality tore open. Thorne saw where Martin had gone, a vast, green, underground world where hundreds of people, including Martin, were slowly turning into trees, becoming part of a single, massive organism. Then the creature stepped toward them. Thorne screamed for his men to run. They fled through a forest that seemed alive and hostile, grabbing at them with branch-like fingers. Thorne was the last one out, catching a final glimpse of Martin Groves, flickering between man and tree, before he stepped back into the darkness and the earth sealed shut. The entire search party of 50 men had vanished. A month later, a special agent from a secret government division arrived. His name was Raymond Vance, and he investigated paranormal events. He explained that an ancient, infectious life form, the green, existed in the mountains. It didn't kill, it incorporated people, especially those deeply connected to the land, turning them into part of its ecosystem. Martin, he said, had become the seed for its expansion. Vance and Thorne returned to the clearing. Using strange rituals, Vance summoned Martin Groves. He was still recognizable, but his skin was now bark, and moss hung from him like hair. "I am Martin. I am the oak. I am root and branch," he said, his voice a chorus of echoes. He explained that he was now a guardian. The green was fighting back against a dying world, and he was its soldier. He revealed that the lost search party was now at peace, their minds absorbed into the forest's collective dream. He offered Thorne the same peace, an end to his loneliness, a reunion with his late wife. Thorne felt the pull, but Vance broke the spell, and they fled. Sheriff Thorne's mind broke. He died a few years later in an asylum, clutching a seed-like object. The rifle was moved to a ranger station, but it was never truly contained. Sometimes, it would move on its own, pointing toward Devil's Kitchen. And if you looked closely at the rifle stock, you could see faces trapped in the wood grain: Martin, the sheriff, and the 50 lost men, all waiting. 75 years later, a young forestry student finds a rifle propped against an ancient oak in a clearing that isn't on any map. It feels cold and hums in her hand. A whisper on the wind, sounding like her mother, calls her name. Come and see. She reaches for the rifle, and the cycle begins again. The forest is patient. It has learned that the most effective lure isn't fear, but the promise to end our deepest loneliness. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as chilling as I did, hit that subscribe button for more tales from the shadows.